Welcome to Akhand Vidyashram, the first institute of impeccable wisdom. Let's discuss what auto-realization, an experience of Tantra. My genuine admission to start with, which maybe for the first time I'm putting in a record. I do not believe in democracy. The majority opinion may not be perfect. That is first thing which I make it very clear. My love for democracy is zero because I haven't seen somebody to be perfect to do A to Z for the entire universe, the benefit of everybody with truth, merit, conscientiousness, and for the world peace. I do not see in democracy. I still would go by a Raja or the king who is very honest, truthful, and have Ramraj. Second thing which I have been very clear, I do not believe in diplomacy. Pleasing sycophant is killing the truth. Diplomacy in any form, in administration, check or otherwise, has not been perfect. As a result, the whole world is suffering because people in power are putting their ideas on others, which is killing the whole educational system itself. Third, I do not believe in dictatorship either. Forcing views on anyone is also meaty. So whether you are a democrat, whether you are a diplomat or a dictator, all the three outright I am not in favor because people can come up only on their own. Education has to be uniform, but nobody can teach others unless until somebody wants to do that. With these three things, the fourth thing which comes to my mind and auto-realize is sharing own experience of the world and leaving the knowledge for the world to move on. What I have done since my childhood, my experiences as such, I am leaving it to the world to for them to take the decision and go on. Now I am going to explain these things one by one, few examples from my life and prove it why I have my own ideas as such, why it's needed, why it is good for the entire world, but how the world is going to receive and move is their choice, not my compulsion. I am doing things for myself, enjoying it and sharing it. Now it's for others to do it or not to do it. Let's leave it at that. Now they come to the question of the first thing, democracy. As I say, I do not believe in democracy. The majority opinion may not be perfect. And one person in the entire educational system or the world could be perfect and remaining 99.999% could be defective. And I think it's come to that particular stage that one person, Shiv Bhushan Sharma, is trying to talk with the divine mathematics for the first time in the history of mankind since 2015, with which the perfect education, enlightenment, and empowerment for everybody could be done. So that is where. But at the same time, I do believe there are certain perfect democrats who do work within certain concepts. When I talk for myself, I talk of 64 arts and sciences and think for everybody. But when come to the personalized, say, state level or the center level or national level, there are certain people who are very important. Now, I'm not going to talk about that as such, but since I come from the state of Jammu and Kashmir, I'm born and brought up there. And that is the state where I start my life. That's I get exposed to democracy as a child there only. There I see my father, Hiralal Sudotra, was against Article 370, which was imposed on Jammu and Kashmir when Raja had decided to be a part of India. But two political parties, and I'm very clear it is a Congress and National Conference, they put together and put the whole article of 370 and separated Jammu and Kashmir from rest of the India. Unfortunately, it was never a part of it. And my father and he left Jammu and Kashmir, had to work in Delhi to fight for that. That is the first person. Second person which comes to my mind is Shama Prasad Mukherjee. He lost his life in 1953 in Jammu and Kashmir, fighting for the union of Jammu and Kashmir with India as such. And he is the first person who was the founder president of Jansangh. And I had great respect from me, although I was a very small child. My father and people from Jammu stood by him, and as a result, maybe Sheikh Abdullah was arrested and put. After that, I know as a child, Rishi Kumar Kaushal was the MLA from Katra and Riyasi, and he was against Article 370. He was most dependable Democrat I have ever seen. He was only doing things to get rid and make sure that law is for everyone, not for one thing or the other. I think that was a great example how a Democrat should be. For him, the party is not important. State is important, nation is important, the world is important, and I respect him as a person whom I have seen with my own eyes, stood against his best friends when they made certain comments against his opponent, whosoever it was. Then, as on today, on the national level, only on international level, only person I feel is a good Democrat whose intentions are perfect. And given the choice to lead the world as such, he can do wonderfully very well because he has a conscientiousness, every human being as such. It might sound very different, but fact is, I respect Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and I am glad that he is the one in 2019, he revoked the Article 37 and made Jammu and Kashmir a part of Akhand Bharat itself. So he gives a respect. I have seen him since my childhood to be focused with India and Jammu and Kashmir being together as one part. And I have respect. I don't have respect for anybody else, although there are many other people from many angles. When I am looking at the Akhand Bharat, then these things important for me. Second thing which comes to my mind very clearly is the reservation policy which Government of India brought in after 1947 for the independent nation in the name of serving the underprivileged and backward classes. They brought in reservation, which was the worst thing ever done, because underprivileged, uneducated people giving the reservations and putting them in a position for which they are not fit for is the worst thing you can ever do. And I'm sure great politicians at that particular stage were against, but somehow the Congress overruled and brought in, and that has done the worst thing to the government as well as Bharat itself completely. I do not believe that truth, merit, and excellence are essential. No reservation can help anyone. People have to be highly educated, perfect with divine mathematics, divine physics, divine chemistry, divine biology, medical science, and other things. Only a perfect, intelligent, intuitive individual can serve purpose of the self and also help the world as such. From that point of view, I do believe the world is suffering because of reservation all over in different forms which we see. It is not only selection of the candidates, it is also the research, it's also things, everything so biased. And in the biased, reservation has become the starting point. Now, I do believe that my system would have been, nobody can stop an intelligent human being independently working together. And this is where I stand. I come from a place which is a village, Atrikuta mountain, Katra, son of Brahmin family, underprivileged, not rich, not politically active, not into the ruling party, not have any of the privileges, and opposition at that time was always being ill-treated. Coming from that background, and then against a reservation, I had to start as a child. And I'm It's very unfortunate for me to say 1964 my father had a paralytic stroke from which he did not recover, and I make it very clear he did not recover because of no sport, no finance, no medical profession, nothing at all. Until 1964, I was excellent in mathematics and I wanted to do work only in mathematics, research in that. But when I do look at the mathematicians today, including Ramanujam and other Indian mathematicians who are great mathematicians, fantastic mental intuitive ones, but they lost because the mathematics which we talk today is a West-based man-made concept or algebra, geometry, other thing, and they have killed the mathematics, they killed the physics, they killed the chemistry, they killed all the science research throughout the world. Today, unfortunately, by the West, approach was pathetic. With that approach, with the reservation, I had to live in mathematics at that stage. I am glad nature gave me a chance to come out of the mathematics and not to worry about the divine mathematics which I was interested in. Now coming to medical profession, then question comes up. A Brahman from underprivileged political opponent can get a seat in a medical college because Jammu and Kashmir had no medical college of their own. I had to go for one of the two seats in Tamil Nadu. That means I have to excel in academics so high that there is not even single person who can come anywhere close to me. From 1964 to 1965, I realized I have no other go excel in this. That is the time I realized that my teachers who were Congress based, how they were playing with the marks and letting their own relatives get the scholarships. Till such time I was not bothered. But now I had to go for economics also on my own. And maybe 8th standard in Jakarta was I got 728 out of 800 marks, which was 91% at that given moment of time. When fortunately I also realized second in class was having 300 marks less than me. 428 and the difference 728. Can you imagine 300 marks out of 100, which is almost like a nearing 40% difference. But that was the first thing I realized, that I am capable, I can do it, I can oppose the education and produce the results which are much better than required. Maybe that's the time I realized the education system is very defective. Whatever is taught is defective. So my answer would have the defective answer, then say this is defect, this is perfect. No wonder every evaluator appreciated my concept very clearly. As a result, I moved into Jammu to get into best school to be preparing for the top position in boards, 10th, 11th, and then get into medical college. But when I went to Jammu, I was put into medical college which was not covered by golden section. Then I was asked to, but there again I met a Congress leader who was a form teacher. He, for his thing, his modus operandi, he tried to pull me down, but he could not. Result, he did not treat me, and more he ill-treated me. The more and more I became, then I have all the rise so high that this man should come and apologize to me for his thing. And they are in a position to do whatever that, and there is no one who can check them. Unfortunately, best teacher and other thing I found was actually the worst teacher. They did not even understand further. They won't even answer one question clearly. At that given when I said, and luckily I stood again there first. Then when I to 10th standard in the board examination, I broke all the records. And that also was in 1967. Between me and the second student who was incidentally my student, 5% difference, and nobody got more than 500 was a record by itself. And 11th standard the same thing, outstation based on these marks. In 1968, in July itself result came and there was selection and I was immediately nominated because I made it clear you cannot give this seat to anybody else. I have to get the first seat. I deserve it, because not even one person can ever even dream of marks as such. I think this is where I realize marks matter, and marks is the only thing which is going to make me become eligible, because I would command, not demand. And as a result, in July itself, I was immediately nominated for first seat, and given me the nomination, asked me to proceed to Chennai and approach the Director of Medical Education for the next procedure. When I came to Madras, I met director, and they said your process has not started. And July, August, only September the process of selection was completed, because I also realized by this time everything is done only to please, and people who do not deserve seats are reserved only for them, not for educated people. Then after that they put me into Chingalpet Medical College, and I spoke to the Director of Medical Education, said I have come all the way from Kashmir with this excellent result to be a best student in the world, and I do not want to go a new college in Chingalpet. Put me into Madras Medical College. The gentleman was very good. He said, okay, I'll put you. Incidentally, I met one Professor Subramaniam, who was the head of Department of Pathology, Madras Medical College. He made one point very, very clear to me. No student from Kashmir has ever passed any exams in first shot. As a matter of, we have even to push them out when we come to the stage, nothing to do. And that's the time I told him, sir, don't worry, I would be the first student to pass all the exams in excellence and move on. Anyway, I have no other go. I have to go by National Merit Scholarship, which Government of India is going to sponsor to me because of my education background, and also maybe I take a loan. And I am glad that from 1968, I started getting centum% marks and passed all the exams first shot, and without any difficulty I moved from the medical college with exemplary thing. I was considered exemplary student in school, exemplary in college, and all the certificates speaks volumes about that. And from that I procedure started. Then I never wanted to get into any of the government hospitals or other thing where reservations are there. So I prefer to work independently without any government organization, independently. 30 years I practice very clearly ki if I have to do Excel, I have to be free to do it. I cannot do under reservations, under a candidate who wants me to do something which I cannot proceed. I think that stubborn action made me do very well. And no wonder I have all the first records in academics, research, and everywhere, which I don't think anyone in the world. This is where I have gone against the reservations and proved to the world an intelligent student can do wonderfully very well, otherwise it's not possible. The today's problem of the education throughout the world is only because of reservation restrictions. And later in research I realized that everybody is following only work done by others. Nobody has an experience of their own to do research. They copycat, they do find some fault and rectify, and somebody else find. What is the kind of research? As a result, mathematics, physics, chemistry, which was slightly better now over a period in the last 50 years or 40 years, I saw so much deterioration in research that you cannot even find copyrights for one perfect thing. Now, from prevention of medicine, we have come to more of disease-based thing where everything is fluctuating. There is not even one student who understands perfect anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, psychology, anything. We are in a confused state. Nobody has any final diagnosis. I still remember in Madras Medical College, we were given 2 minutes to give the final diagnosis looking at the patient alone. But today, even with all the investigations, experts are not able to give a final diagnosis at all. Now, differential diagnosis, that's the worst thing you can ever do. And we go on drugging the patients and protrude iatrogenic problems and killing the patient itself. What kind of education is that? What kind of knowledge is there? Where the whole world is suffering because they look up to doctors. And not even one medical doctor I know in the world, except me, who knows even the perfect Female menstrual cycle, what a pathetic state. Female menstrual cycle, perfect medical thing, is not known to any other doctor other than Shiv Bhushan Sharma. He's the first one who revealed it in after DIVYANK in 2015 and showed how is a perfect. And that is the kind of research, that is kind of education, that is kind of thing. I can imagine the state of where we are fighting throughout the world on things there is no need. And the reason is only because our education is defective. We need to change. No reservation, only perfect, impeccable wisdom should be, and my entire work of Akhand Vidyashram over that. That's also I realize, unless until I do it on my own, things will not change. I wanted everybody to be involved in my research, in my charitable trust, but I found everybody was trying to only hijack things from me for which they have done nothing. But what they have done, they hijacked, put me away, but they put me into better position because I moved up to higher level and moved on. Whether they stayed there and they did not know what to do, everything they moved out, and as a result I have the copyright trademarks of each and everything perfection single-handedly. I do not share that with any other individual. I think that is a great modus operandi with which DIVYANK has come. And now with DIVYANK I am showing to show how it is perfect, and we need to rewrite the whole books and teach the next generation so there is uniformity in education for the perfect anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, including divine mathematics, divine physics, divine chemistry, and divine sciences all together. Now comes the question of diplomats. And I know all the administration, whether you are in IAS officers, ICS officers, politicians, VS, all of them are useless third-class characters, and I'm making it very, very clear. Barring very few people, I've seen who can work for perfection at all. They're just trying to please people. And I do know as an individual, I'm very liberal in praising the person who's good, but never sycophant. Pleasing sycophant, you are killing the truth, and that is exactly what has happened in diplomacy altogether throughout the world. Just for personal interest, money, name, fame, you are misleading the world, and that kind of knowledge is no use at all. And this is where I have engaged diplomat, but I am glad I have met few people who are genuinely good. But honestly, only one diplomat who is in administrative position is Revenue Secretary Shri Yogdhan Mathur. He is the only person I have met till today who was doing wonderful use for and everything for everyone depending on the merit. And I don't think I've seen second person in the world in administration or diplomacy who was genuinely good. And I'm impressed with him, but not impressed with any other person. And when people ask me, I come from Jammu and Kashmir. I went back to Jammu and Kashmir again after 2005. 3 years I've done a wonderful work in Sri Mata Western University. Excellence in everything, recorded everywhere, fantastic. And person within 2.5 years as a non-entity ad hoc associate professor became second in the university, and the things which I did wonderfully well. But just because of differences with vice chancellor who wanted to reward his student, not the person who deserves, we had the differences. And instead of taking, he cannot take any action against me. All he did, spot the school of spiritual science for which I was appointed and asked me, we are close to it, we don't need your service, you go. And at that time, all the things which I brought it to Jammu and Kashmir government, as well as the director, as well as chairman of Sri Mata Vaishnavi Shrine Board, nobody took any action. They slept and slept. And that's what diplomacy is all about. And that is not productive if you don't have the guts. And today, I do not find even legal department have the guts to do it. And there also had a case where I found people are only interested in money and they give judgment only on money. Lawyers are not truthful. Judges are not truthful. Whole system is defective. So police, this, that. I do not see even single person worthy of appreciation that they will do something good for this. Where the basic intention is bad, how can you do very well? And that is where it is. Now I come to the very third thing. Everybody is calling dictator. And I do believe no dictator in the world can ever succeed, because forcing your views on others is not at all effective. If you are going to dictate, you are making the person sit on you and you got to go on feeding him. So dictators become like pathetic people. And I know, agree. You have to let people move, but unfortunately people have to be educated to understand, and that's where differences come. And if they do it, I think I'm perfectly fine. That as a result, at the end of the day, it is my thoughts, actions and other things with impeccable wisdom has made me come from a background to this level that I'm telling the entire world. This is the education required, not the education which is given throughout the world in the privileged, underprivileged, everything. And that is single-handedly done by me. And that is what I'm very happy that with the help of divine grace, spiritual science, I am leaving behind the legacy which is good for each and everyone in the world. Now with that background, I say, now the prime objective of everybody is to be perfectly healthy, wealthy, wise, happy and perfect human being. If you have to be very healthy, wealthy, wise and happy, you need to have a perfect education of anatomy, physiology, biochemistry and all the sciences. All the 64 arts should be known to you. Only then you can lead. No one is going to help anybody. And this is a statement which I am making to everyone. Your future lies in your hand, not in somebody else. That's it. Otherwise, you are not going to get it. Simple. Then I also say everybody is failing because they do not have the knowledge, they don't have the courage, and there is no system is like that. As on date, I can feel bad, but hereafter you will not have, because the knowledge is available. And knowledge can be sought by the people who are seeking the knowledge, not by someone who is not seeking the knowledge. Now comes the research and sharing with the world, which is good, and nobody can find fault. Now, I have also gone into it. There is the only way to be a perfect is to have a divine mathematics. Man-made concept which world is speaking is defective, DIVYANK is correct, and this is the symbolic represent. These are the two things which can be changed because these are consistent. Every other language is defective, whatever it is. From that, the first thing which I have come to very clear to talk in this particular as an a self-realized person or auto-realized person. There are 7 parts of the nervous system, and this is a symbol which I have made, and the 7 parts speaks that everything is made of 7 parts, even brain. And this is the information which the books give, and I say this is defective, defective and defective. And now how did I perceive the nervous system? And I make it very clear that scientists who are mathematicians and scientists who are doing research, they have no personal experience. They cannot even correlate by themselves. And if the research is to be done in maths, physics, chemistry and sciences, people should become a subject by themselves and perceive it. And then, thank God, in 1991, accidentally I was initiated in simplified Kundalini Yoga by Maharishi Vettatri, and that changed the whole concept when I experienced the entire universe within myself. I understood Veda and Upanishads are perfect and Sanskrit scriptures are excellent, and that started a new journey. Now I am going to share you this Siksha which happened in that. I realized that something which was within that. He made me sit in a lotus pond. He put his hand between my eyebrows and I could feel within few minutes something moving from upper abdomen, which is Manipura chakra, and moving around the heart and coming to the between the eyebrows. Was a beautiful experience, and maybe the first person who experienced that accidentally at the time without any idea at all. And people who have idea and do it, they will be biased. But I had absolutely no idea of chakras, nudis, kundalini at all. I was not into that. 40 years I had led an education only on maths, physics, chemistry for that in the scientific way. I understood the concept very clear, but I have no idea of spirituality. But that was the experience. But that experience changed the whole concept thereafter. I could feel the concentration of a chakra in Manipura and Ajna by and large. Now that experience changed the whole concept. Ki if this is within me, so I have a chance of understanding and do things within myself. I can use this to make myself completely by understanding, and that is what Veda and Upanishad. For 2 years I studied, but all the books available on the subjects were absolutely wrong, wrong, and wrong. And then this was the experience moving, as I am showing in the symbolic representative of 91. Then he taught me, you do Turyatetam to concentrate 1 foot over the head and focus there, you will have. And that's the time I realized I could focus it and feel the chakra there itself. I think that was a fantastic experience. But I'm sure anybody who is pure vegetarian, who is absolutely free from drugs and anything for that matter, who has a control over the mind, who has control over the thing, can experience entire universe within the body itself. Now I reviewed the things and I found the books were defective. I decided that I would rather go to a school of yoga to learn things on my own instead of from the books knowledge. And that's where I learned with the 4 months of 1 month of yogasana, 1 month of pranayam, 1 month of tratkam and meditation, that I could experience the chakra from Muladhara chakra to Vishuddhi chakra within 5. I could see the light around my body. And when I said that I could experience, he said, don't tell others, they think you have gone mad. And this is again something, it's a genuine experience of mine. Seeing aura with my skin throughout was considered to be defective, and that is where psychologists are killing people who are genuinely intelligent people, giving them medicine and making them vegetable. And I see bipolar disorder, gestation, Kundalini syndrome, all are unwanted because the world does not know we are making intelligent people moron vegetables. Now I have explained that Muladhara chakra, you can go to the higher chakra, the 7th level, through external route, not within that, is something which I experience. I have written about it. I have also given the external consciousness, which I have said at stages, also the internalization, and also created the whole thing within my body. When Ida, Pingala, the thing I had an experience within me in 93 was another beautiful thing when I realized it's not 7 chakras which everybody is talking about. There are 6 chakras according to Satchakra Nirupana, but there are 10 chakras actually within my body, and they are associated with the autonomic nervous system as well endocrine system. And there are 3 major nadi, Ida, Pingala and Sushmana, and this was the experience which I found within myself. That was amazing experience as it transformed me and gave Tantra a new name of Tantra Vidya. And Yoga from 8 stages, I took it to 10 stages, Akhand Yoga, I think was phenomenal. And then I had an internalization of realizing that is what auto-realization is, or internal self-realization. That was in 95. But that's the time I found that I am able to produce alpha frequency after opening the eye, which nobody else is able to do. And that a conversation between me and my voice of silence. And then journey started completely together towards the impeccable stage, slowly step by step from 1995. That is where I first started my first charitable trust, Akhand Foundation. But then also realized that how Ida, Pingala and Sushmana nadis are actually connected with autonomic nervous system. And those things was a beautiful awareness. And with that, I had already in 93 applied for a PhD work with Madras University, and that was the starting point now to move on conscientiously, a subjective sensation to be evaluated objectively with the evidence which no one in the world can ever deny. That was the research done by a person on himself as a thing as he is experiencing and moving on. Now with that I realized actually Satchakra Nirupana is talking only 6 chakras which are with the reptilian brain, right? Muladhara to Swadhisthana to Nabhi to Anhata to Vishuddhi to Ajna as 6 only. but remaining 4 chakras and other concept Ida, Pingla, Sushumna Nadi as also given in the book of Satchakra Nirupana, but nobody has done that. And when I saw this description of Vani Nadi, Surya Nadi, Chandra Nadi, Brahma Nadi, other thing, I could easily see is talking about the spinal cord and the brain stem. Now you can see the same concept here very clearly. Ki vertebral column is a Sushumna Nadi, Ida and Pingla are sympathetic chains left and right, and then subspace, the water is moving is Vani Nadi, and then you have a white matter of descending and ascending tracts, and also the grey matter, the nuclei in the brain, and then the central canal, and within that is Atma. I think that was a fantastic thing given in old book 3000 PS plus from Jammu and Kashmir again, and seeing what modern science divided anatomy of the neuroanatomy is so clear. I thought that was amazing. That's a realize actually the nervous system is not made of 6 parts, it's the 7th part. That's why insular cortex, I spoke about it and showed its relationship with autonomic nervous system down. I think there's a big bridging which happened during my PhD work itself. Now we realize that even the Gada of Hanuman, that means reproduction itself has so much of power. If you want to be perfectly intelligent person, you got to have a testosterone, and testosterone has to be converted estrogen in the brain to make it super intelligent. So that way, and understanding sexuality, testosterone, estrogen, and making things be very clear, but not as a brahmachari which everybody talks about it. Not indulgence and both misuse and disuse where I realized. And now over a period I realized actually Tantra means how to be intelligent, intuitive, otherwise, for which you got to be very potent in testosterone. That is what is going to give you a lot of RBC, lot of muscles, lot of intelligence, lot of calm and quiet clarity. I think that was beautiful in Vani Nadi. Now comes the sacral parasympathetic, cranial parasympathetic, sympathetic. I'm going to discuss at a next stage these 3 things to show how beautiful are the chakras, how nice it is. But again, sacral parasympathetic, 3 nerves out of 5 segments, and everything is exactly detailed. We'll talk about it as we move on. Now, this is something which I realized that insular cortex in the brain makes it 10th part, which world talks about 8, but I said 10. But reflection is seen in the lateral things in thoracic 12 and 2 lumbar and sacrum 2 component. Rest you don't even see lateral horn cells at all, from which autonomic nervous system. I think that was another conclusive thing. And 7th thing, left and right chain put together meet at the bottom in Muladhara chakra, which is actually ganglion impar or coccygeal ganglion, is also something very clear. Ki ancient book which I read when I was in Madras Medical College, Best and Taylor had the description of ganglion impar associated with Muladhara. I have not found that knowledge in any other book. So that way, being a good student, good memory and good experience has made me, when Muladhara is where sympathetic system comes to the bottom part, so there is no more sympathetic overactivity, then you have to be perfectly fine. And that's why I say all psychosomatic disorders are associated with autonomic nervous system, endocrine system, and these are the neurohormones which are responsible for problem, and they can be rectified with food alone. If you are going to take non-vegetarian food, we are going to like animals. If you are going to take alcohol, we are going to be intoxicated. If you are going to take drugs, we are going to become vegetables. If you are going to take anything including painkillers, your sensory system is going to be defective, so reflexes will not be perfect. So as a result, now I am 70 plus, but I do not take even single medicine for anything, because all these medicines are working on your internal homeostatic system. They are disturbing it and they are not helping you. As a metal, they are making you vegetable, whereas body has a complete concept of rejuvenating itself by good food, balanced food as it is required. If you know how much water is required, how much sodium is required, how much potassium is required, how much calcium is required, how many of these vital atoms, elements and molecules and ions are required, the body will tell you. Body itself will tell you, you take this, you take this, you take this, and you could be perfectly healthy, wealthy, wise and happy. And that's a message which I'm giving to the world. You got to become your doctor. You cannot expect that from any doctor, because all the doctors, I make it clear, they do not even know female menstrual cycle. Forget about it. They do not understand anatomy perfectly at all. And I say for each and every, with full responsibility, I'm not giving one person outright, is not even one medical doctor other than Shibhushan Sharma knows female menstrual cycle, and also the other sciences. They do not know preventive medicine. They are only drugging and killing, killing and killing. It might sound very funny, but it's a reality. We have to realize, then we got to take charge and become our own doctors ourselves. Now come to the question of autonomic nervous system is with, I say, 6 stage. Is brainstem to this, to Mooladhara to Ajna Chakra, experience is that, and this is what is going to give you awareness of homeostasis put together. And this is what we are going to discuss much more in detail, keeping health in mind. Now, this is where I have seen the central system is complete only with central insular cortex being brought together, which is associated with autonomic nervous system. Only with the 7 part you can understand the concept very clearly, which no neuroscientist the world has ever given to the world. I am now trying to rectify all those defects internationally, and it's meant to be free for everybody, because it's all with 4K. You can play into anything, and these are the things should be played to all the students of the world to bring uniformity in education. If you want to be healthy, wealthy, wise, only then you can lead. A sick person can never lead. You have to be healthy, and you need a perfect anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, maths, physics and other things. So we need to change. I am changing it, and we more and more it is done. It's good for the world to understand this is Vasudev Kutumbam. Now, this is a stage which I have brought together and shown. These are the 7 stages which have never been done by anybody beforehand. And I'm glad that I'm able to rectify the defects and setting things perfectly once for all. Now, this is sensory system, where I say there are 7 parts in sensory component which is absolutely essential, which I've spoken about, from which the pressure comes, fine, touch, pain, proprioception, temperature, everything is connected. And this is where it is from ectoderm. So that's the reason the skin can see, because it is just like eyes, and perception is very clear on skin part. Now this is the thing which I have said, lateral horns, and this is the combination. This is what is going to make the world impeccable wisdom of reflex action which is there. It's just to show you a reminder. You can see it as we move on. Now the afferent system is incoming detailed information. Skin, I have already spoken about it. Now the eyes and accommodation reflex will tell you how powerful is this system and how it can help you to perceive inside and outside so beautifully. And this is again associated with the motor and involuntary component as such. Once that you experience, only then you know what it is like. Now, Shruti is directly here in the universe. Only when your ears are as perfect, you can hear the sound which ordinary people do not. But you have to be so clear that there is complete consistency of inner sound which is based on divine mathematics of DIVYANK. And once that is done, you could receive even what is in the universe recorded in Akash Kosh from the beginning to past, present. You can be in tune with that. And I think that is where my research goes to very well. We're going to see as we move on. Then close association of smell and taste. Both are these are chemical energies, where other 3 are electrical start with. So with that you can see association with smell and taste, and I have given the example. Take a coffee, fantastic coffee, can taste good only when the nose is not having cold. Otherwise you cannot perceive, and that association has shown how beautiful it is. Then how the autonomic nervous system brings in information from top to bottom. Sympathetic system flows with the blood vessels from top to the bottom, so it can perceive anything and everything as it goes, and all the rectification primarily is done by the sympathetic system itself. Parasympathetic is to rest, digest and conserve energy to give you the power for future. But when you require it a sympathetic system, it mobilizes sugar, it mobilizes water, it goes take to where it is required. Wherever deficiency, it tries to protect you like a mother as such. This is the divine mother which I talk about. And that is the autonomic nervous system, particular sympathetic system. If it is not controlled properly, it can produce tachycardia, sweating and other things, including given heart attack could be dangerous. I have already spoken. So keeping a sympathetic system is a power for intelligent intuition otherwise. It can take you to the universal consciousness clearly. Now the touch I can tell you is very clearly through this particular thing. That information you should be very sensitive. Then central evaluation, you should have the subjective evaluation both together as one part. Now this is the central nervous system, which is sensory and motor component in the brain, where from pelvis right of the soul is represented in the middle, but others are outside. So the rest of the body can have the chakras to in tune with universal consciousness, but right up to soul to pelvic region is not to the universal consciousness. And that is also something which Tantra talks about it, and I am saying this is how it is to be understood. Now come to the question, autonomic nervous system is thereafter we are going to see in detail as we move on, not necessarily now. Now the descending component is the voluntary from the brain, and this is where I said sensory component goes to the posterior part of the brain. So there are chakras on the back side which are sensory component, and then up to brain, parietal lobe, occipital and temporal, which is sensory in component. And then motor start from sensory to this is the prime center in the brain, is according to DIVYANK. Then basal ganglion, planning and programming, and cerebellum is to coordinate. Once these things function very well, only then you can be a good driver by and large. Otherwise, there are going to be differences. And this is primarily a balance between sensory and motor component as such, including autonomic involuntary component. Now the descending thing, how it goes, I have already shown. This is also based on DIVYANK, and it's a beautiful way to show how it proceeds. You are going to see more of it. Now coming to the brain part, there are 7 layers of neocortex, which they say as 6A, but I say it's 7. But I am very sorry to say that no neuroscientist of the world knows the functions of the first 3 layers of the neocortex, like molecular layer, external granular layer, external pyramidal. These 3 layers, what are the functions they don't even know. But these are the dendrites which give you the universal knowledge. And that's the reason that neuroscientists EEG is only sensory component up to 4th layer, and motor from 4th, they center around that. But they miss this inner power, inner energy, which can rectify this thing and make you go beyond. This is what I said. Turiya is a concentration 1 foot. That means the sensory component has been taken to that level through autonomic nervous system or the extension by and large from within out. Once that is done, you become a perfect human being. Otherwise, you are deficient in that and this. Now I am going to give you the results of my PhD work, where I found how beautiful is that. The bottom, the control group is like every other human being, and the main subject is me as such. But you can see the picture with closed eyes. Both another subject and me is identical to look at it, except the power in me is 3 times more than the power you see in other people, which is the result from 1993 to 2001. 8 years concentration in power spectrum is there. But here you can see dharana is no concentration, dhyana is the concentration in the pelvic region, and samadhi is the concentration over the head. So samadhi is the one which I take it because I have gone beyond to the stage to the perfection. You can see this. Now with as I open the eyes, you see a different change. When you see an open eye, you see a change. Alpha and power is almost 3 times. But in common man, other people, there is no alpha and power is low, and even samadhi they are not able to concentrate. But you see in samadhi, in alpha as well as total power is phenomenal. Almost 3 times the concentration of other people. That shows how much is a sympathetic system gives you the power. How testosterone is converted to estrogen, and this is power of estrogen, not of testosterone. Is converted to estradiol through aromatization of testosterone to that. Now, over a period, I am able to produce 8 Hz frequency throughout the brain, 8.5 with eyes closed, 8.4, 8 as such, and this is the result given by that. And I think I would leave at that particular stage to say that's enough for the time. Thank you very much.